Hi there, this is Daryl Olson from the Jackson Fishing Team, and today I'm going to teach you how to tie a Fiddle Sticks Crab. It's supposed to be an imitation for fiddler crabs. Would be very good for fishing on the flats and flood tides and in the grass when the redfish are coming in, feeding on the fiddler crabs and sucking them out of their little homes. Um, This is going to be made from some deer hair, Chenille, lead weight, um, a saltwater hook, and we'll cover all those details in there. This is the fly, what it looks like when it's upside down. Um, Ideally, it looks very similar to here. You know, I'm not very good at this, but we're having fun tying flies during our crisis here. But we'll tie these up. These ones are in tan with a little bit of purple in there. We're going to tie a few more. What I'm going to do on the video will be tied up for in olive with some purple, a little darker. So why don't we get started on that? On there. So the size hook we're going to use will be a Gamakatsu SC15 in a 1/0. And as usual there, I like to debarb my hooks. Makes it easier getting out of the fish, helps on the survivability. On there. Now that we got the hook in place, so I need to take a step back. We need to create legs and some claws, and you can go buy them commercially, but I like to stress myself out and try to tie little knots. So we're going to use some Ultra Chenille and Micro. In this case, it's light olive since we're tying one in olive. And the legs, you're going to need 3 sets of legs. That's really simple to, that's just a measure. They're going to be 2.5 inches long for this size fly that we're doing. And I'll measure off one. One there, and then what I'll do is I'll use it as my guide, and as my guide to cut the other two. So you could do this the day before. You cut up a bunch of these legs. To have them prepared for the thing. Now once you've got your 3 legs tied, we're gonna go ahead and do our claws, and I've got some prepared here, but we'll cut one out. And the little claws will look kind of like this, where I'll snip that end off, but I'll grab 2 out here, and I'm going to make one just so that you can see the frustration probably. And these are supposed to be 3 inches long, so you're going to measure 3 inches, and you're going to 3 inches, and then we're going to fold that in half. See how well I can do this on camera. And the loop end here, we're gonna tie an overhand knot. And if you've got big fingers, it's kind of hard. Yeah. It'll probably be a whole video of me trying to get this one claw tied. There we go. And once you got it started, you want to make sure it's at least 1/4 inch long on there, and then tighten that down. And I'll just throw that into my little kit. You're going to want to make 2 of those on there. And once you've got that done, we can go ahead and start our thread base. And I'm going to use some 210 denier tying thread. This is brown olive. It really doesn't matter on the color because the thread parts are all going to be hidden because of all the deer hair and all that. But so normally when we've been doing these sessions, we've been starting our thread at the eye of the hook. On this fly, we're going to actually start it at near the back here because we're going to be tying in a dumbbell eye. And we'll get the thread started, and it'll be a small dumbbell eye. I'm using plain. Color, not in other words, just looks lead colored. But you can use whatever color you want. It doesn't matter if it's got eyes on there or not. So I'm using lead eyes, or small. Since we're casting in the shallower water, we don't want to make too big of a splash, spook the fish that's tailing in front of us. And we'll use our figure 8. And again, as if we were tying the dumbbell eye at the eye of the hook. We want to make sure it's all squared up. And using crossover wraps like this, and helicopter around to tighten that up. And then we'll lay a layer of thread here, not too close to the eye because we're going to have to kind of whip finish it. we're going to want to come to about the middle, and that would maybe just maybe in front of. Okay, now that we've got that barbell tied in, we've got a little layer of thread, we've got the line about the middle of the shank just in front of the point. We'll flip the fly over to tie in our legs, and you can tie them in one at a time. There's processes to do that, or I'm going to tie them 3 in at one time. And the important part is to make sure that you've got them where the legs can be separated when you're tying. So the other thing I'm going to do is by folding it under, I'm going to make sure that the tips are even. That gives me an approximate measurement that my legs are the same length on both sides. And then I'm going to start going towards tying them in towards the eye of the hook. And then I'm going to make sure that they're somewhat aligned the way that they were in there. And then I'm going to put a couple wraps in between the first two here towards you and the loner. And then I'm going to put the middle one towards me and separate a lone one on your side, and give it a couple wraps. Now what that does, it makes it easier, it keeps those legs apart. On there, and then we're going to do the same process going towards the bend of the hook. And once we get close to the thing, I'm going to do the same thing. And separate the two closest to me. And then back to the middle where we can tie in our claws. Let me get a couple out that I've already prepped. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut that claw open, and we'll make it look pretty afterwards. I guess you could cut them prior, but I might give it a counter spin so that my thread base give it a couple turns that way to get the claws stick out in front. Back to the middle, and then again we're gonna cut that claw, and then back to the middle. Next we got to put our eyes in. And instead of making them, I'm going to be lazy and I'm going to use some EP product, the crab and shrimp eyes. And these are in size small and they're black in color. You'll need 2 of those. And all they are is pieces of monofilament with melted with a little black painted ball, or you can get them in red on there. And what we're going to do is since the front of the fly is facing me right now, I'm going to put it in there and do a couple crossover wraps. And then put the other one in, try to make sure that the length of the eye is the same. But we can always adjust that if it's not. And that looks pretty good on the length there. I don't know if you can see that. But we're going to leave these long, because after we get the hair down, we'll check to make sure that maybe they're in line with the hair, and then trim them off on that. Then after we've got them in place, we're gonna get back to the center between there. That's going to be our tie-in point on the hair on there. So our first layer of hair, and you don't have to use two choices, but I'm going to use 2 because it always seems like you see a little purple in a fiddler crab. But we're going to start and use an olive deer hair, belly hair, body hair. If you use a bucktail, they don't splay out as nice on there, and they're more like for using for tails of your flies on there. And then you don't need 2, but I find it's been easier for me to use a hair stacker on that. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to grab enough hair, about, I don't know, the size of a pencil, and you're going to want to clean out the underfur. And then I'm going to put it in the stacker, and doesn't really have to, but I think it's pretty handle. And then yeah, and then when the tips are about there, you're probably well stacked. And now one of the things you don't want to happen is you don't want to spin this deer hair. So to give it 2 loose wraps, and spinning means you'd want it to wrap around the shank, and we don't want that. So I'm going to kind of hold here while I lift up. And don't pull too tight, otherwise you'll break your thread, but that's not a big thing if you do. And if you have a few hairs underneath, that's not a problem. We can always trim those out. But you can see how that hair just blossomed out like a flower. Now what we're gonna do is so we could call this done and do some trimming, but like I said, I'm gonna put some deer hair, purple color, just a little bit, not as much. I'm just going to take a little pinch of it. Now this is deer hair from the body. The hair what I used earlier was the belly, and you're going to find that the hair on the body is going to be a little longer than the hair from the body of the hair. That's a little longer. And again, I'm just gonna get rid of some of this under fur. I don't need that. You know, we've talked a lot about that. You know, aligning the tips like what I'm doing is really not, again, is not as necessary. But I find it's easier for me to be able to handle that hair a little bit. On there, and then we'll do the same process. Kind of put it on top, and a couple loose wraps again. And then we'll pull down. You don't have to be so concerned now that we have the bottom one locked in. And then we'll give it a couple wraps here. I'm going to lift this up and put a couple whip finishes in to hold this in place for now. And you can use your bodkin. We're not going to use the whip finish tool. And we're just going to put a couple whip finishes with the bodkin around the eye of the hook. Two or three should be good enough. And then we can go ahead and we can trim this thread off. But we're not going to be quite done. We still have to do some trimming on there. I think the eyes look pretty good. We can work with the eyes where they're at. I don't have to make them longer or shorter because we'll be doing some trimming. So what I'm next going to do is I'm just going to trim off this excess monofilament. And then level this out a little bit. And then I'm going to take my hair scissors and I'm going to kind of clean up the bottom a little bit before I do the top. And then I'm going to get out and try some curved scissors. don't know. It seems logical the other day when I was thinking about when I'm tying this fly. And we're going to make sure you have your leg lower. Turn those upwards. Kind of like that using the curved scissors. And then when you're happy with it, you can see my pattern there with the purple. You know, it might not be quite like that, but it gives that indication that it could be a fiddler crab in there. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to put in since we're fishing this in the grass flats, it probably wouldn't hurt to put on a weed guard. And again, 25 or 30 pounds. Should be good. And I'm going to turn this over back to the original format. And we're going to pre-shape our monofilament. And restart our thread base again. And this is the tricky part because we've got all that hair we're working with in there. Trying to get it started. Once we get it started, it's easier. And now I lost it. I'm blind as a bat, don't see it. We'll get another one. Pull it down. Alright, well I found it. It was in my spool bobbin. Next we'll give it a quick whip finish. And then again, we'll, like most weed guards, we'll cut just before the tip. On there. And we'll spread out our things. We'll put some barbs or segments on here with and then on the tips we'll just put a little red. And then to help our threads down here in our knot, we'll put a little UV finish down there. Turn on our UV light to cure it. And there we have a finished Fiddle Sticks Crab to imitate a fiddler on the flats. I hope you get adventurous to try to tie a few of these and give them a try, and share pictures with us here on Heroes on the Water, or on the Jackson site, or on Project Healing Waters on the big redfish that you catch on that. All right, this is Daryl Olson from Jackson Kayaks signing off, and we'll see you on the waters. Have fun with your crafts on time flies.